Join us for a review of the Mercedes-AMG GLC 63S. Let's go! The GLC facelift in general features new daytime running light signatures right there, and also technology-wise they upgraded it. LED is now standard as for the headlamps, optional the ones you can see here, the multi-beam LED also with more high beam function. Also some visual changes here, but just minor. Here the GLC 63 and 63S, a little bit of horsepower difference, gets a stronger lower bumper right there, also a contrast, and this Panamericana front grille with a different shape and those vertical fins to make it more aggressive in the look. 4.65 m, 15'3" or 183 inches is the length of the Mercedes GLC SUV. This one here in Mountain Grey Magno, one of my favorite colors at Mercedes, has this matte paint. You can also hear how you feel it, very interesting. And together also with the Kevin Side Blue, the so-called Thomas Blue at Mercedes. The wheels to start with 17-inch with a normal GLC, go up to 19. Then the AMG line would be 19 or 20-inch. And here we got the optional 21-inch wheels. In the rear, the GLC facelift introduces this new tail lamp shape, also with the signature right there when it's illuminated or when you're on the brakes. And this is more in line, for example, with the new design also of the Mercedes GLE, the bigger brother. So I think this, is a quite nice update you have there. Then for the 63 models, you can see the lower end here more massive, like an own attachment, also with those exhaust tips. The air does run through that, but the outer part, this is just a separate element. The real exhaust end is behind that. It's then not 4 exhaust, but 2 exhaust tips. Yeah, about this fake exhaust topic, discussed it quite a lot recently. So what do you think? Do you like this additional attachment here for the strong performance model? So what do we have here? Yeah, a little slow hydraulic struts, but there are some. This one here, oh, Alexander handcrafted this one here. This is the true AMG engine philosophy, one man, one engine. This one here, the 4-liter V8 biturbo with 476, or in the S version, 510 horsepower, as we have today here. Acceleration depending on 63 or 63S, 4 seconds or 3.8 to 100 kilometers or 62 miles an hour. Of course, that's a lot of performance. All-wheel drive standard, that's a true one. More rear-wheel bias than a permanent all-wheel drive. Of course, the distribution changes a little bit, can adapt a little bit more to the front, a little bit more to the rear, depending on the situation. Okay. To the interior, starting with the car key, with the AMG logo, also at the back. Pretty slim and light, like that. Those AMG models also come with a special Dynamica microfiber steering wheel. I love that. It has a great grip, summer and winter time both, and with or without gloves. Really a true racing style. The whole steering wheel has a new design right there. also with a flat bottom. And the Distronic now went up to the steering wheel itself, has not a separate column anymore. That's interesting. And also this performance gauge left and right, I really don't like them. They just look and feel a little bit cheap, don't, fit to the rest of the interior, I think. Yes, it's quite practical to choose the driving modes right there. That is somewhat a good feature while driving, but I think the left side could have been left out, I think. Let's now get inside, and since this one is still a mid-size SUV, the entry is somewhat easy. Just those very stiff side bolsters of the sport seats, the optional sport seats, hinder that a little bit. Yeah, I mean, you feel a little bit caged in, and again, they are very slim from the bolstering as well. Size-wise, I'm 1m86 or 6'1". You know that if you're subscribed, and that leaves a lot of headroom still. You can also get the panoramic roof optional, then there will be a little bit less headroom, but that one will still work for tall people. The GLC interior is defined by the sporty upper dashboard and then this huge middle console, which here with the AMG comes then with a carbon fiber look. That's cool because then you also do not have this shiny black surface, which tends to look a little bit cheap or scratchy or fingerprinty after a while. And those round vents right here, and the new logic for the infotainment system is for normal GLC base analog instruments with some digital screen, optional those 12.3-inch full digital instruments, standard for the AMG model. And on the right side you would start with a 7-inch screen, and then the second one that you can see here, 10.25-inch. However, both small and bigger screen have the new MBUX system. That means you now have also a touch screen and also the voice support that you can, for example, change the temperature with the voice input or like a GPS input. And the digital instruments right here with a fancy look, those ones are the AMG gauges, but you can also switch it to normal trip information, for example. Yeah, this was the performance driving now. Later on also some Autobahn driving with the minimum consumption, but you can see this V8 bi-turbo is really, that's not MPG, that's liters in 100 kilometers. That's pretty fierce, definitely. Also, the assistance systems info could also be in there, for example, the distance from Distronic and so on. So you're pretty flexible with that. Fancy system, head-up display function here, for example, or switch the whole design. Oh, Super Sports it's called, or to the normal sports view. That would be looking like this, or like here, the more subtle classic view. But when you have the AMG, probably you want to leave it with that. What about the rear compartment? By the way, here for the 63S model, you also get a rear differential lock, standard equipment. Optional then for the normal 63. But here to the interior facts, well, those Super Sport seats, they're a little bit slimmer, therefore, they're maybe not too bad for the legroom. It makes maybe a little bit of a difference. The thing is, here in the GLC, they do not use the space that well. You still can sit here as a tall adult if a tall adult is driving, but not the best package overall. So yes, it works for 4 adults, but not plentiful, so to say. Headroom here, especially when the panoramic roof is not in, is also totally okay. Again, 1m86 or 6'1". And well, the seating itself is actually quite comfortable, and it's also somewhat upright here in the rear. You cannot move the bench here whatsoever, so not much option as for that. But as I said, it's actually quite okay to sit in here. And now to the trunk. You open it right here below the logo. This Magno grey paint, I just love it. Then it's very interesting. You can also close this lower floor cover and have some more space underneath. Well, in general, good dimensions actually to use. And the SUV also just has a, just little cut off right here. So with the coupe, we have more problems that we need to push the luggage more inward, that the hatch still closes. So we have a height problem here in the coupe. That's the drawback then of the different design. Welcome to this active driving part. Let's put in some Sport or Sport Plus mode. It's dry road. Usually just don't use the Sport Plus on the road, but I can do it now, so at least when it's dry. And let's go. Starting with some corners here. bumps in the road, and whoa, you feel this suspension, especially in the Sport Plus mode, is even more stiffened up. So that's a very, very stiff setup. So that you directly feel it's a different car than a normal GLC. Rather feels like a low-sitting sports car indeed. And here, the steering is also, on the one hand, it does feel sporty, but then here, like the low angle areas, that feels a little bit loose. So I would like to have some more feeling in that. Let's see if that's a difference between the comfort mode and the sport mode. If it's, here it's a little bit softer in the comfort mode. Let's go Sport Plus mode again. Yeah, I think there's a little bit more, I wouldn't say it's more feedback, but it's a little bit, you need some more strength. And there is also a launch control available, like here. That was already 90. Jonas was surprised by that, like that. Bam!
I lost my headphones.
Oh, he lost his headphones even, wow. So before we get to a core motorway experience, let's start with a loud motorway experience. So we set it to the Sport Plus mode, and already a gear is shifted back, and we can hammer it out from 90 kilometers to whatever. That's 200 kilometers or 125 miles an hour. That's crazy, right? I mean, in an SUV. So yeah, supposed to be one of the fastest SUV on the road. And everyone is gone behind us, wow. And it is like the first kick. I mean, we were already at about 100 kilometers or 60 miles already, and still there was like, bam, a kick. Wow. That's insane, really. That's really insane. So especially the SUV has a very good view to the rear. I can really see what's going on there. And of course, more practicability for the trunk overall. And the side windows are also pretty upright. Just this area, this is pretty thick, but still view is not too bad. Yeah, I mean, for the B pillar, then again, the blind spot motor is an option you should definitely go for. Other than that, the GLC in general is a great motorway vehicle. Would just be better if the suspension again would not be so stiff here. We are already in the comfort mode. You can also pick the sport mode right here. At the moment in the 9th and top gear. So this is then just for saving some fuel. And then you can also score the minimum consumption if you leave it in a higher gear and also in comfort mode. At the moment you also do not hear so much of the engine, so you can also drive it quite silently, although when you're, for example, in a parking garage and start slowly or something, then you still hear a difference if you're driving the V8 or one of the smaller engines of the GLC. And a short consumption info when you want to have the minimum consumption, cruise control, and basically let it roll. 10 liters on 100 kilometers, that's about 23 mpg US or 28 mpg UK. Usually when you hammer it a little bit more, it will go up, as I said earlier, about 12 liters then, and then less mpg of course, or then way up, as we've shown you earlier, when you really want to let out the performance. Yes, the V8 biturbo does consume a lot of fuel, and the other ones, especially the new alternatives like the PHEV, maybe the F-Cell, they have a lot of different alternatives now, which are also more eco-friendly. And now to our conclusion for today with the Mercedes GLC facelift in general, and also here with the AMG GLC 63S. Well, the facelift is mainly about the changes on the interior, those new infotainment systems you can get. Of course, the top trim will also, cost a lot of money then too. But at least it's good to have this new MBUX system, especially with the better voice recognition. That will add definitely more extra to this car. So it is a good option definitely to go for, because you can just have less input with all of the systems and the knob and so on. Some do prefer the turning and pressing knob whatsoever. Then you should still go for the pre-facelift. Just some minor visual changes on the exterior, so more extra equipment than as for the lights. The driving is just the same as before. Interesting is that, of course, here with the performance version, you have really a very, very aggressive SUV. It does not feel that much as an SUV anymore then, because of the very, very stiff suspension setup. So you really have to like that. So you would go for that one if you want a little bit more upright seating position, but still want, so to say, I mean, it's a sports car. Definitely performance-wise, you've seen also in our driving part. As for a comfortable ride, air suspension-wise, then it does not make sense to go for the AMG models, because you lose the typical air suspension comfort with this. And of course, it is basically overpowered, you can say. And of course, way too expensive if you compare it to a normal GLC. Yeah. So this one here, if price is really not mattering too much to you, a good performance tip would also be to stick with the normal sports seats. This will give you more comfortable riding in general. Those optional sports seats always very interesting just from the visual part, but not really from the riding part. I hope you really enjoyed our review here together with us. The GLC in general remains a very, very good pick here in the mid-size segment. Please also join our other reviews of the competitors. For example, a BMW X3 would be one from those mid-size SUV segments. Also one I can also recommend, so tune into that review. And of course, recently we've shown you the Audi SQ5. You can also tune into that. So, and now, thank you again for watching. Please tune in next time.